Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian from Tribeca Trade Group, and this is your end of day market recap for Monday, January 8th. Geez, what a start to a week. It is almost as if my joke or bad joke earlier was that, some of these groups just had off last week. I don't know, maybe they were on the slopes, getting some skiing in for the beginning of the year. Of course, that's a bad joke. What I'm referring to is just a lot of groups just were not there last week and really kind of slid. But you have to kind of remind yourself that that the market was up. S&P was up 9 weeks in a row. So at some point, it's difficult to say whether and of course people always try to time that. Oh, we shouldn't be up 6 weeks in a row, right? I'm going to short it, right? Well, this time we were up 9 weeks in a row, which is very strong. And yeah, that digestion is absolutely needed. Of course, just to kind of take a step back and talk about how we kind of came into this week, was that you didn't know if it was going to be if it was going to be today or sometime this week or later in the week, if we were going to see that buying come back. And that's one of those things where patience really helps in this market, and waiting for signals. But as far as the price action was today, by the time it was like the first 30 minutes had gone by in the trading session, it was more action, I think, than we saw last week. And last week, if you were off, congratulations to you, because you picked a great time. But if you traded every day last week like me, right, you really had to and I mentioned this phrase a couple times last week, but you had to curb your enthusiasm. I came into to this year thinking like, oh, I'm so excited for 2024, but you really had to kind of stay grounded, in terms of like not getting overexposed, because if you were trying to do that in tech. Now, of course, we talked in all throughout last week about healthcare outperforming and a few other places, and we made some good trades in those groups last week. But as far as tech and software and semis, right, it didn't matter how hard you tried last week; those names were not going up, no matter what. No matter how hard you tried, and no matter how much you tried, dollar cost averaging, on the way down, there was just nothing going on. And every time that there was a little bit of a bounce, it got sold last week. So, risk disclaimer in front of you guys. Everything that we're going through, of course, is for information purpose only. Thank you for joining me in the first live stream of this week, coming to you from downtown Manhattan. But yeah, so the outperformers, no doubt it was the Qs. They were up over 2%. And then the small caps really kind of came into play. They got charged up, I think, in the middle of the day. Really, when you look at what rallied the most, the biotech had a huge day. Now it was interesting because I don't know, biotech had like 3 or 4 deals today, but the first 3 deals that were announced did not involve names that were in the XBI equally weighted biotech ETF. It wasn't until I think what's that name, CYTK, it was announced that Novartis has some serious interest in that company, that the whole group really started to kind of come alive. So this is what I was, I positioned into it's what's funny about this too. Of course, it's funny today, not so much last week. But yeah, here was the move. And this really just launched here at around 12:55. Now it was doing fine, but it kind of just catapulted higher, and that was right around that news that that CYTK is or maybe being acquired, because there's nothing official in terms of a price or anything like that. But what was funny was I had tried a couple times last week going long XBI. Now I went long the healthcare ETF, and I went long Eli Lilly, but I had tried. I'm like, and I had mentioned on Friday that this is really going to be a must-watch chart. Maybe that biotech can actually get out of the value area, something that it hadn't been able to do all 2023. It's the price stayed. Price was really an underperformer in terms of other areas of the market last year, and it never got outside of its value area. So it's doing that. The value area, of course, is different this year because it's based on just last year's. You can see the volume profile. It's based on last year's activity. But, you know, so I tried once and it kind of sold off pretty decently. And you could kind of see, you know, I do show the trading blotter, my trading blotter most days, but you could see, I said, I think this was on Thursday, somewhere in here. Yeah, I said, I said, here's the second try. I'm going to try this again. It's one of those things where I got a couple questions about like how to avoid whipsaws, because I think overall, someone's in here with their video on. But please turn off your video, whoever's in here. But I can't do it now. And somebody has their mic on. Come on. Come on. Please don't come in here with your mic on. So here, let me try to get out of this. Sorry, bear with me. If someone is in here, please get out. You should not be in here at this time. Let's see if I can. Yeah. All right. Well, okay. So back on track. So yeah, I mean, that's sometimes what you have to do with trades, right? Sometimes they don't work the first time, right? And if you get stopped out, then you have to just retry, you know, and get back involved, because sometimes you're going to get caught in a trade that looks great one day and then the following day it gets rejected, you know. And that was one of the themes I think of last week too, is that there was a lot of fake, you know, false breakouts and so forth. Again, in this short time, those things can happen. It's just a reminder that that can happen from time to time. So in any event, biotech, very nice. A lot of, you know, really good price action there. That's, again, something that we just haven't really seen. Now, of course, there is this healthcare conference this week, JP Morgan Healthcare Conference. It's one of the events. Also, don't forget, we've got earnings reports that start to pick up towards the end of this week, right? Even though we're getting a lot of preliminary earnings that comes in, that it's coming in. Retail came in. I'll get to that in just a second. But the other really strong groups today, which impressed me, of course, was the semiconductors. They started to look like they were going to turn last week. I actually, speaking of trying trades, you know, I tried both going long NVIDIA. I think that was on Thursday, and it just didn't really budge on Thursday. And I think I also tried going long SMH, and you know, you can see from my trade blotter. So I was kind of sniffing some of these trades out, and they were just, you know, they were just day trades. You know, I was just kind of trying trades because I know how difficult the price action was last week. Turning to the, so yeah, here's Friday. I, you know, just I was in this, I got out of this like midday on Friday. So, you know, here's what SMH did, and then we'll talk about NVIDIA, and we'll talk about a couple of the other movers in here. But I mean, that's really, really nice to see, you know, the price action, which was sitting like many things, including the indices, sitting below those two short-term moving averages. And, you know, all of a sudden one day, and it is amazing how quickly markets can move. All right. So how could I get through, you know, about 6 or 7 minutes of this meeting without talking about NVIDIA? So first of all, what this chart reminds me of, right? And again, I'm pretty zoomed in here, right? We're just basically looking at the last like 6 or so months. Now, if we scale back, right, and we go back to the beginning of 2023, right, this puts things into perspective, right, that it had a colossal year last year, you know, up around what, 200% last year, just you know, a huge gainer. All right, well, here's where I'm going to be realistic here for a minute, because what happened was most of those gains that happened last year were in this first 6 months, or, you know, really 7 months, because after that, the stock basically went sideways. So if I zoom back into the six months, now it still went up, right? But all over the place, right? And, you know, if you bought some of the dips, you did particularly well, but overall, very sideways looking chart. So you've had to have some patience with this. You know, I was saying that this 499 to 503 level, I talked about this, I believe, in Friday's video. I also sent this out as the stock to watch in Substack reports. Make sure that you're signed up for that. You do get a 7-day free trial to see, you know, everything that we're posting there. But here's what the weekly chart looks like, you know, and again, it's only Monday. But this would be nice if this continues, and what I'm looking for is NVIDIA to stay above 503. And, even if it chops around for the rest of the week, right, that still would be very good. And that's all about, trade management 101. Right. And so, I didn't do much trading in the afternoon because I'm kind of positioned the way I want to be positioned. Right. If you're positioned the way that you want to, or the way that you think is optimal, then you're probably just not doing too much trading. I mean, I took a really small target just to be responsible with NVIDIA. But ultimately, I'm holding the majority of the position that I got into this morning. So this was impressive, right? We can go through a couple of these, but AMD was also impressive today. Right. And you kind of have to pick and choose. One way that you could do it is you can own a couple of these. Another way that you could do it is you could hold one name and you can hold the ETF, right? This way you're not all over the place if you've got 5 names on, because I think that you could have really gotten involved in 5 of these names, right? But again, the one way to do it is just to own the ETF. And this way you're getting that exposure. But I've been watching Broadcom, just slip, and then finally today turns the corner, gets back above the moving averages. Also on the 1-hour chart, what you can watch if you're not in Broadcom today, it wasn't up that much comparatively to some of the other moves. As long as it stays above 1071, right? This is in a very good spot. Remember, Broadcom made this huge move back towards the end of December. This was one of my best trades for December of last year. And then it kind of went sideways after the big move, as some stocks do. So a retake of that 20-day moving average, I think, is really good. ARM also had a really nice day. This was another name that was one of my best plays for November and December of last year, but it kind of fell apart a bit. It hit 78, high of 78, moved all the way down to about 60 what? 766, and then came back today, and now I have a level to be long against, which is 7069. Right. Another semi name that I am long is CAMT. Didn't do much, but I still like it. I like where it's at. This one, again, you have to be patient with some of these things. No reason to sell it, in my opinion, and has been acted well when the rest of the semis were not. All right, and then there's the software group. Right. And this also made one hell of a turn. Again, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, last week, just nothing was doing in this group. And so if you dollar cost averaged and you held it, congratulations today, because this was up 2.7%, gap up, and really strong, really good for that group. Again, just a lot of missing in actions the first week. Home builders. Also, which I did sneak in I started a position in Pulte. I liked what the home builders were doing on Friday, and you've got some continuation here. Builder is also one of my favorite names. BLD, this is Builder, right? Which also acted pretty well, had a nice bullish engulfing if you look at the body of that candle. And BLD got an upgrade this morning, which didn't move that much. Surprising. Pulte, I kind of felt lucky because Pulte got a downgrade by Citigroup this morning, but that finished just fine for the day. So I didn't go over the indices, but it's kind of the same story. I talked a lot about price getting back above these short-term moving averages. The other thing that we saw was the McClellan summation index just about flash a bearish crossover. So strong breath today may flip that back. We'll have to see. I haven't looked at that because usually it's updated on stock charts. At around 5:30 or so, but same thing with the Qs here, retaking those moving averages. Also, price getting above the value area for the week, right? So if you missed out on today and you for whatever reason you couldn't trade, if we get at some point a check back to the top of value, that also could be a good entry point. That's right around 401.30. Now, the last group I wanted to talk about was the retailers. Right, a couple of these names coming out. Abercrombie has just been a stud. Abercrombie was up last week in a tough market and made a new high today. And then AEO also came out, and now they didn't have. They're still up 6%. They just didn't close on that. I guess at one point they must have been up by like 9 or 10% this morning, but really nice for American Eagle. And then Urban after hours, which has been another pretty strong name, right? And they're look at, so people were doing apparently a lot of shopping because these numbers are coming in strong. I went long Gap. I kind of felt like I should have went long Abercrombie. Just go with the leader, which is what I normally do in the space, but I like the chart in the Gap. So I'm long, and let's see if we can stay above. I would love to see it stay above 21.45. All right, and then upcoming, we have some events this week. Some both earnings. We've got the JP Morgan Healthcare Conference, and then you're also going to have this little thing called the CPI report. But what's nice, this market, if it wants to, can continue to go up until we get to the CPI report, which is not till Thursday. Some people say that, hey, I don't really care too much about these economic reports. Well, I went back and actually looked at what the CPI report did every day last year. Keep in mind, the S&P was up about 25% for the year, right? If you just look at what the market did on the CPI days, it was up over 5%. So that's pretty good considering that there was only 12 of those days on average, right? Not on average, but I summed up all the days. There's a couple minuses in there too, but yes, the market can really move on the CPI data. It is still somewhat a macro tape. I can't tell you what it's going to do on Thursday, but with knowing that the market moved just on 12 days, moved up over 5%, I think that it could be an event to watch and something to kind of understand that you've got a little bit of event risk there. And of course, we get the PPI thereafter. All right, guys, that is it for today's live streaming session. If you have any questions, you could either reach me on Twitter. Please make sure that you're signed up for our Substack, and you could also get involved in our trading room as well, tribecatradergroup.com. Have a great day, everybody.